Morning came slowly. Jason was already awake before the sun fully entered the room. He lay on his back, eyes open, staring at the ceiling like he was trying to understand something too big for his mind. Father. The word didn't sit well yet. It felt heavy, new, almost unreal. Beside him, Lola was still asleep, her face calm, her breathing soft. One of her hands rested lightly on his chest, like she had placed it there without thinking. Jason turned his head and looked at her for a long time. Just last night, everything changed. He swallowed. He wasn't scared of crowds. He wasn't scared of stages, or cameras, or millions of people shouting his name. But this was different. This one had no script. My name is Patience, and this is a story about a man the world thought it understood until love changed him. If you watched Big Jason 1 and 2, then you know his life was loud, fast, and full of attention. But this part is different. This one is about what happens when a man starts choosing one woman over everything else. He gently lifted her hand and held it in his own, careful not to wake her. His thumb brushed against her fingers slowly. "My wife," he whispered under his breath. It still felt strange saying it. Then he added quietly, almost like he was confessing something to himself. "And now, mother of my child." He exhaled deeply. Lola moved slightly, her eyes opening slowly. She blinked, adjusting to the light, then saw him staring at her. A soft smile spread across her face. "You didn't sleep," she said gently. Jason shook his head a little. "I tried." She lifted herself up slightly, resting on her elbow, studying his face. "You're thinking too much," she said. Jason let out a small laugh. "I think I'm allowed to think, just a little." She reached out and touched his cheek. "You're scared." It wasn't a question. Jason didn't answer immediately. He looked away for a moment, then back at her. "I didn't plan this," he said quietly. "Not this early." Lola nodded slowly. "I know." There was no pressure in her voice, no accusation, just understanding. "My life is not normal, Lola. Tours, shows, deals. I barely even rest. Now this." He paused, then added honestly, "I don't want to fail you." That was the real fear. Not the child, not the responsibility. Failing her. "You won't," she said simply. Jason shook his head. "You don't understand. Everything I have now. I fought for it. Hard. And I almost lost it once." His eyes drifted away, like he was seeing something from the past. For a moment, the room went quiet. Then the memory came back. It was a smaller studio. Not the big one he owned now. The old one. The one that started everything. Jason stood in front of a man in a suit, his voice low but firm. "You're telling me my song made millions, and this is what I get?" The man didn't even look bothered. "That's the contract, Jason." Jason clenched his fist. "My voice, my lyrics, my pain. And you people are eating everything." The man shrugged. "That's how the industry works." Jason laughed bitterly. "No, that's how you people steal." That day he walked out. No label, no protection, just himself and his team. Paul stayed with him. Michael too. They built everything from scratch again. Slow and painful, but clean. No one controlled his voice anymore. Jason blinked, returning to the present. "That's why I built my own team," he said quietly. "Everything I have now. I control it. No one cheats me again." Lola listened carefully. "And now?" she asked softly. Jason looked at her. "Now I have more to protect." She smiled gently. "You're not alone anymore." That hit him. He looked down at her hand still holding his, then tightened his grip slightly. "I know," he said, and for the first time since morning, his voice sounded calmer. Lola leaned her head on his shoulder. "You don't have to figure everything today," she whispered. "Just be here. That's enough." Jason nodded slowly. For a moment, they stayed like that. No pressure, no noise, just peace. Later that morning, the house felt different. Jason didn't rush out like he used to. No quick calls, no shouting instructions. He stayed. In the kitchen, Lola was preparing breakfast again. Jason walked in quietly and stood by the door watching her. She turned and caught him looking. "What?" she asked with a playful smile. Jason shook his head. "Nothing." She raised an eyebrow. "You've been standing there like a security guard." He laughed. "I'm just watching." "Watching what?" He stepped closer. You. Lola smiled, shaking her head. You're behaving strange today. Jason moved behind her and gently took the spoon from her hand. Sick, he said. She looked surprised. Since when do you cook? Since today, he replied. She laughed. This one will be interesting. Jason tried to look serious. I can cook small. Okay, Chef Jason, she teased, sitting down. He started awkwardly, moving things around like he was not fully sure what he was doing. Lola watched him, smiling the whole time. You're doing it wrong, she said. I know, he replied, but I'll still try. She stood up and came behind him, guiding his hands. Like this. Her voice was soft, close to his ear. Jason froze for a second, then relaxed slightly. You're distracting me, he muttered. That's the point, she whispered. He shook his head, smiling. You won't let me rest. Never, she said proudly. By the time they finished, the food wasn't perfect, but they didn't care. They ate together, laughing at small mistakes. At some point, Jason just stopped eating and looked at her again. Lola noticed. What now? He hesitated, then said quietly, thank you. She blinked. For what? For choosing me, he said. Her expression softened immediately. I didn't choose your money, Jason. I know. I chose you, she added. Jason nodded. I know. And this time he really believed it. Outside, his phone started ringing again. Reality was calling. Meetings. Schedules. Tours waiting. But inside that house, something had shifted. Jason picked up the phone, looked at it, then placed it back on the table. Today can wait, he said. Lola smiled. Big Jason is skipping work? He shrugged. Today. I'm just Jason. She laughed softly. And for the first time since everything began, he didn't feel like he was losing control. He felt like he was finally gaining something more important. The next few days didn't stay soft. Life didn't wait. Jason woke up one morning to the sound of his phone ringing non-stop on the bedside table. Messages, calls, notifications stacking on top of each other. He groaned slightly and reached for it. Michael, Paul, management group chat, brand reps, even unknown numbers. He rubbed his face before answering. Yeah, boss. Michael's voice came in loud. Where have you been? Your phone has been off since yesterday. Jason glanced at Lola, who was still lying beside him, watching him quietly. I was home, he said. Home. Michael almost laughed. Bro, your life is not normal again. Oh, things are moving fast. Jason sat up slowly. What happened? Flex is going crazy, Michael said. I'm not joking. Streams are flying. TikTok, radio everywhere. Even outside Nigeria. Jason closed his eyes for a second. The song again. Flex. The only track he had released from the new album. He hadn't even dropped the full project yet, but the noise had already started. How bad? Jason asked. How good? Michael corrected. This thing is big, and brands are already calling. Big ones. Jason stayed quiet. Michael continued, more serious now. And you have an interview this afternoon. International press. They want to talk about the album and your story again. Jason exhaled slowly. Back to work. I'll be there, he said. He ended the call and dropped the phone beside him. For a moment, he didn't move. Lola shifted closer. Work, she asked softly. Jason nodded. It's starting again. She studied his face. The calm from yesterday was already fading. You don't look happy, she said. Jason let out a small breath. I am, it's just... He paused, searching for the words. This thing doesn't slow down. She sat up and touched his arm. Then don't let it carry you away. Jason looked at her. That's the problem. It always tries to. By afternoon, the house was no longer quiet. Stylists came in. Security moved around. Calls were being made in every corner. The living room turned into a small control center. Jason sat in front of a mirror while someone adjusted his jacket. Keep it simple, he said. No too much styling. Yes, sir. His phone buzzed again. Paul. You ready? Paul asked. Jason nodded slightly, even though Paul couldn't see him. Yeah, the album is already getting attention, Paul said. Move and groove. People are curious. Jason stared at his reflection. The name sounded bigger now. More real. I hope they hear what I'm saying inside it, he said quietly. Paul understood. You didn't make noise music, Jason. You made your truth. That one always finds people. Jason gave a faint smile. Let's see. The interview was set in a clean, bright studio. Cameras, lights, a calm-looking interviewer sitting across from him. Jason walked in, greeted politely, and sat down. Big Jason, the interviewer said with a smile. Good to have you here. Thank you. They started light. His journey, his rise, the success of Last Chance. Then it shifted. Your new album, Move and Groove, people are already calling it your most personal project. Why? Jason leaned back slightly. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he spoke slowly. Because I'm not the same person anymore. The interviewer nodded. What changed? Jason paused. He thought about the small house, the hunger, the studio nights, the betrayal. Then Lola. He swallowed. Life happened, he said simply. I've seen things, lost people, gained things I didn't expect. It changes how you hear music and how you make it. And the single flex, it sounds confident, almost like a celebration. Jason smiled a little. People think flex is just about money, he said. But it's deeper. It's about survival. It's about standing after everything tried to break you. The interviewer leaned in slightly. And right now, what are you standing for? Jason didn't rush the answer. He looked down briefly, then back up. My family, he said. It was simple, but it was heavy. Back home, Lola watched part of the interview on her phone. She sat quietly, replaying that last answer again. My family. Her lips curved into a small smile. Then she placed her hand gently on her chest, like she was holding on to something fragile and important. That evening, Jason returned home later than planned. More meetings, more calls, more pressure. He walked into the room tired, loosening his shirt. Lola was already there, sitting on the bed. You did well, she said. Jason looked at her. You watched it. She nodded. You said my family died. Jason gave a small smile. I meant it. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she stood and walked to him. You're trying, she said. Jason looked at her, tired but honest. I don't know if I'm doing it right. She placed her hand in his. You are. 2 days later, the schedule got tighter. Shows were lined up. Cities, flights, performances, brand meetings. Jason stood in his room, looking at the printed schedule in his hand. It was full, almost no space to breathe. He shook his head slightly. This is madness. Behind him, Lola spoke. I'm coming with you. He turned immediately. No. She frowned. No. Jason walked closer. Lola, it's not easy. Flights, stress, noise. I'll be moving up and down. She crossed her arms slightly. I didn't marry you to stay in the house while you disappear. Jason sighed. That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? She asked gently. He looked at her. I mean, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Lola stepped closer. I'm more uncomfortable without you. That one landed. Jason looked away for a second, then back at her. You're serious? She nodded. Very. He studied her face. There was no joke there, just quiet determination. He exhaled. Okay, he said finally, but you stay close to me. No stress. Lola smiled immediately. Deal. The private jet was already waiting. Clean, quiet, controlled. Very different from everything Jason grew up with. As they walked toward it, Lola slowed down slightly, looking at it. This is your normal life? She asked softly. Jason glanced at her. I'm still getting used to it too. They stepped inside. Lola sat beside him, her eyes moving around, taking everything in. Jason watched her reaction. You like it? She looked at him and smiled. I like being here with you. He didn't respond immediately, but his hand found hers, and this time he didn't let go. As the jet lifted into the sky, the city below grew smaller. Jason leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. Noise outside, silence inside. Lola rested her head lightly on his shoulder. You okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. Yeah. Then after a pause, he added, I just don't want to lose this. She lifted her head slightly. Lose what? He turned to look at her. This us. This peace. Lola held his hand tighter. You won't, she said. Jason gave a small, tired smile. I'll try. She leaned closer again. Don't try alone. He looked at her for a long second, then nodded. Somewhere above the clouds, between noise and silence, between fame and something more real, Jason started to understand something. The world would keep pulling him. The music, the money, the attention. It would never stop. But now he had something pulling him back. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't running alone anymore. The jet landed just before sunset. From the window, the city lights were already coming alive, one after the other, like something waking up slowly. Jason didn't move immediately after the wheels touched the ground. He just sat there for a second, staring out. Lola noticed. You're back in your world, she said quietly. Jason gave a small nod. It never really leaves. She adjusted her seat and looked outside too. Then let me learn it. Jason turned to her. You don't have to learn everything. I want to, she replied. If this is your life, then it's mine too. He didn't argue. He just reached for her hand again. The moment they stepped out, everything changed. Security moved quickly. Voices everywhere. Sir, this way. Car is ready. Media's outside. We need to move fast. Jason's face shifted without him thinking about it. Calm, controlled, distant. The version of him the world knew. Lola walked beside him, quiet, observing everything. She saw how people spoke to him. Careful, respectful, almost afraid. She saw how he barely looked around, just moving forward like he had done this 1,000 times. Inside the car, the noise faded again. Jason leaned back and closed his eyes. Lola turned to him. You change fast, she said softly. He opened one eye. What do you mean? Outside, you're different. Jason looked out the window. I have to be. She didn't push, but she understood. The hotel was already prepared. Top floor, private access, no disturbance. Jason dropped his bag the moment he entered the room and loosened his shirt. I have rehearsal in an hour, he said. Lola nodded. I'll wait. He hesitated. You can come if you want. Her face lit up slightly. I do. The arena was loud even before the show started. Sound checks, lights testing, people running around, energy everywhere. Lola stayed close to Jason, just like he asked. At first, she held his hand tightly. It was overwhelming, but slowly she adjusted. Jason stepped onto the stage for rehearsal, microphone in hand. Check, check! His voice echoed through the empty seats. Even without the crowd, it felt big. He started singing a part of Flex. His voice was steady, strong, controlled. Lola stood at the side, watching him. Not as big Jason, just as Jason, her husband. There was something about the way he stood there, like he belonged to that space, like nothing could shake him when he held that mic. But when he stepped down, he looked tired again. Real again. She walked up to him and handed him water. You're amazing, she said. Jason took the bottle. Thank you. Then he added quietly, it's easier up there. She frowned slightly. Easier. He nodded. No confusion. No overthinking. Just music. She looked at him carefully. And here, Jason glanced around. Here, everything else follows. That night, the show was packed. The crowd didn't hold back. The moment Jason stepped on stage, the noise exploded. Big Jason! Big Jason! Big Jason! It shook the whole place. Lola stood backstage, her heart beating fast as she watched. She had never seen anything like it. Phones in the air, people screaming his name like their lives depended on it. Jason moved across the stage with confidence, feeding off the energy. Song after song. The crowd followed him. But when the beat 4 Flex dropped, everything changed. The entire arena sang along, word for word, loud, raw, alive. Jason paused for a moment, just listening. A billion streams. But this was different. Real people, real voices. He smiled slightly and continued. Backstage, Lola's eyes were filled with something new. Not just admiration, understanding. Now she saw it. Why he couldn't just stop. Why this life held him so tightly. After the show, the noise followed them back. Fans outside, press trying to get statements, phones flashing. Jason stayed calm, moving through it like he always did. Inside the car, silence returned again. Lola leaned back, still processing everything. That was... She started, then stopped. Jason looked at her. What? She shook her head slowly. I don't even have words. He smiled faintly. You get used to it. She turned to him quickly. I don't want to get used to it. Jason blinked. She continued softly. I don't want to see you the way the world sees you. That made him pause. Then how do you want to see me? He asked. She looked straight at him. Like this. Her hand found his again. Not the stage. Not the noise. Just you. Jason held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Good, he said. Because that's the only one that matters. Back at the hotel, the night finally slowed down. Jason dropped onto the couch, exhausted. Lola walked over and sat beside him. You didn't eat, she said. I'm not even hungry, he replied. She didn't argue. She just leaned her head on his shoulder. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Jason said quietly, I forgot something today. What? He looked down at their hands. You. Lola lifted her head immediately. No, you didn't. He shook his head. I did. For a few hours. I was just in it. The show. The noise. Everything. She studied his face. Jason, that's your work. He exhaled. I don't want my work to take me away from you. Her expression softened. Then don't let it. He laughed lightly. You say it like it's easy. It's not, she said. But it's possible. He looked at her. How? She didn't rush. By remembering where you returned to. Jason stayed quiet. Then slowly he leaned his head back and closed his eyes. And where is that? He asked. Lola smiled gently. Here. She placed his hand on her chest. Jason opened his eyes again. Something about that simple answer settled him. He shifted closer, pulling her slightly into him. No words this time. Just presence. Later that night, while Lola slept, Jason sat by the window again. City lights. Same as always. But something inside him felt different. His phone buzzed again. More messages. More deals. More numbers. He looked at it, then locked the screen. For once, he didn't want to read any of it. Instead, he turned and looked at the bed. At her. At the life slowly forming that he still didn't fully understand. He rubbed his face and whispered to himself, You can't lose this. Not like everything else. Not like before. He stood up, walked back, and lay beside her again. Carefully, like he didn't want to disturb anything. Outside, the world kept moving. Loud. Fast. Demanding. But inside that room, Jason chose something else. Even if it was just for that night. A week passed, but it didn't feel like one. It felt faster. Everything around Jason kept moving like it was in a hurry. Calls, meetings, rehearsals, edits for the album, last-minute changes. Even when he sat down, his mind didn't. But that morning felt different. He was calmer. Maybe because today was simple. Just a music video shoot. No stage. No crowd. No pressure to perform live. Just cameras. At least, that's what he thought. Lola was still in bed when he came out of the shower. Wrapped in the sheets, hair slightly scattered, half awake. She watched him silently as he dressed. Black jeans, white shirt, chains, rings. That version of him again. Not fully Jason, but not fully the world either. Where are you shooting today? She asked softly. Jason buttoned his shirt halfway. Warehouse location. They built a set inside. She nodded, then paused. What song? Jason didn't think much of it. Feel the vibes. She frowned slightly. I thought that one isn't out yet. It's not, he said. But the label wants visuals ready before the album drops. She adjusted herself on the bed, sitting up now. Oh. Jason noticed the tone. What? She hesitated. Nothing. He looked at her for a moment, then continued getting ready. Come with me, he asked. There was a small silence. Then she shook her head. I think I'll stay today. Jason turned fully this time. You sure? She forced a small smile. Yeah, I'm tired. He didn't push. All right. But something about that answer stayed in the room. The set was loud, not in sound but in movement. People everywhere. Lights being adjusted. Cameras rolling for test shots. Stylists moving in and out. Jason sat in the makeup chair, eyes on his phone, scrolling without really reading anything. Morning star, the director said, walking up to him. Jason nodded. Morning. We're going for something very alive with this one, the director continued. Energy, connection, movement. You're not just performing, you're feeling it. Jason nodded again. Got it. Then the director added casually, and the girls will help carry that energy too. Jason didn't react much. He was used to this. Music videos were performances. Nothing deeper than that. The first scene started. Music playing. Lights low. Jason in the center. Then they came in. 3 girls. Dancing around him. Close. Too close. Hands brushing his shoulders. One leaned into him as the beat dropped. He followed the rhythm. Moved the way he always did. Natural. Professional. But something about it felt off. He didn't stop. Didn't question it. Just kept going. Because that's what he always did. Back at the hotel, Lola sat on the bed with her phone in her hand. She didn't plan to, but she did. Someone had already posted behind-the-scenes clips. Short videos. Blurry, but clear enough. She tapped on one. Jason in the middle. Girls around him. Touching him. Smiling at him. One of them whispered something into his ear and laughed. Lola's face changed immediately. She replayed it. Again. And again. Her chest tightened slowly. It didn't feel like acting. It didn't look like acting. It looked real. Her hand dropped slightly. She didn't even realize she was holding her breath. Jason got back late. He opened the door quietly. The room was dark, except for one small light. Lola was sitting on the edge of the bed. Not sleeping. Not moving. Just sitting. He knew immediately. "Hey," he said softly. She didn't answer. He walked in slowly. "What's wrong?" She turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting his. Then she held up her phone. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Jason looked at the screen. The video. One of the clips. He exhaled quietly. "Oh." That was all he said. And somehow that made it worse. Lola stood up. "Oh," she repeated. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. "It's just the shoot, Lola." Her voice rose, not loud but sharp. "Just the shoot." He stepped closer. "Yes, it's work." She laughed, but it didn't sound like laughter. "Work." She pointed at the phone. "She's literally touching you, Jason." "It's choreography," he replied. "Don't do that," she said immediately. "Do what?" "Don't make it sound small." Jason's jaw tightened slightly. I'm explaining." Lola shook her head. "No, you're not explaining. You're dismissing it." There was a pause. Jason tried to stay calm. "Lola, this is normal. It's a music video." She stepped closer to him now. "I don't care if it's normal for your industry." Her voice broke a little. "It's not normal for me." That landed. Jason didn't speak for a second. She continued, softer now. "I saw the way she looked at you." He frowned slightly. "It's acting." "And the way you looked back?" she asked. Jason blinked. "What does that mean?" She shook her head slowly. "I don't even know." Silence filled the room again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Real. Jason sighed. "What do you want me to do, Lola?" She looked at him like she didn't expect that question. "I don't know," she admitted. I didn't expect to feel like this." He ran his hand through his hair. "This is my job." "I know," she said quickly. "I know that. I'm not trying to take that from you." "Then what are you saying?" he asked. Her eyes filled slightly, but she didn't cry. "I'm saying it hurts." That was it. Simple. Honest. No drama. Just truth. Jason looked at her, really looked this time. Not as someone reacting, but as someone feeling something he couldn't ignore. He stepped closer, slower now. "I didn't think about it like that," he said quietly. "I didn't think it would affect you this much." Lola let out a small breath. "Because for you it's nothing." He shook his head. "It's not nothing." She looked at him. "Then what is it?" Jason paused. He didn't have a quick answer. And that silence said more than anything. Lola nodded slowly. "Exactly." She turned away slightly. Not walking off, just creating space. Jason felt it immediately. That small distance between them. It felt bigger than it looked. "I need some air," she said softly. And before he could respond, she picked up her phone and walked out. The door closed quietly. No slam. No noise. Just silence again. Jason stood there alone, in a room that suddenly didn't feel the same. He sat down slowly, ran both hands over his face. He had performed in front of thousands, handled pressure, handled expectations, handled the world. But this was different. Because this wasn't about the world. This was about her. And for the first time in a long time, Jason didn't know what the right move was. Outside, Lola walked without direction. She didn't even know where she was going. Her chest still tight, her mind replaying everything. Not just the video, but his face, his answers, the way he said it's just work. She stopped walking and looked around. City lights again, people passing, life moving. But she felt still, stuck in a feeling she didn't understand. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I'm not built for this life." And that thought scared her more than anything else. Back in the room, Jason picked up his phone, opened their chat, typed something, deleted it, typed again, stopped. He locked the phone and dropped it beside him. Then he leaned back and stared at the ceiling. For once there was no music, no noise, no distraction. Just one question sitting heavy in his chest. How do you hold on to someone without losing everything else? Lola didn't come back immediately. Jason stayed in the same position for a long time after she left, sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like something there would give him an answer. Nothing did. His phone buzzed again. He ignored it at first. Then it buzzed again, and again. Finally, he picked it up. Group chat. Management. Flex video is ready. We should drop this week. Momentum is crazy right now. Strike while it's hot. Jason read the messages slowly. Then he opened the preview they sent. He shouldn't have, but he did. The video started playing. Dark room. Loud beat. Him already different. Not the calm version. Not the one Lola knew at home. This one moved differently. More aggressive. More free. Girls everywhere. Closer than before. Way closer. Hands on him. Him pulling one in by the waist. Another scene, one girl sitting on his lap while he rapped. Jason paused the video immediately. His chest tightened a little. "Yeah, this is bad," he muttered under his breath. Not bad for the industry. Not bad for the fans. But bad for her. He ran his hand over his face again. Why didn't I think about this before? The truth was simple. He didn't have to think about it before. There was no Lola before. The door opened quietly. Jason looked up. Lola walked in slowly. Her face was calm, but not really calm. Just controlled. That kind of calm that doesn't stay for long. He stood up immediately. "Hey!" She nodded once. "I just needed to clear my head." Jason took a step closer. "I'm sorry." She looked at him. "For what?" "For not thinking." She held his gaze for a moment. Then she sat down on the bed again. "I don't want to fight every time something like this comes up," she said. Jason sat across from her. "Me too." She sighed. "But I don't know how not to feel what I feel." He nodded slowly. "I don't know how to handle it either." That was the first honest thing he had said since the argument started. And it landed differently. Lola looked at him properly now. "You really don't, do you?" Jason gave a small, helpless laugh. "I'm lost." She almost smiled. Almost. There was a small silence. Then Jason said it. "I have to tell you something." Lola's expression changed slightly. "What?" He hesitated, then went straight into it. "The Flex video, the official one, it's ready." She blinked. "Oh, they want to release it this week." She nodded slowly. "That's good, right?" Jason didn't respond immediately. That told her everything. Her eyes narrowed just a little. "What's wrong with it?" Jason exhaled. "It's more than what you saw." The room went quiet. Lola didn't speak for a few seconds. Then, "How much more?" Jason rubbed his hands together. "I didn't think it would matter before." "That's not what I asked." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. Jason looked at her. "There's more contact. More closeness. It's the whole vibe of the song." Lola stared at him like she was trying to picture it. And that imagination alone already hurt. She looked away. "Okay, just that. No shouting. No anger. Just that." Jason frowned slightly. "Okay." She nodded. "It's your work." That didn't feel right. He could tell. "That's not how you feel," he said. She looked back at him. "You want me to lie?" "No." "Then don't ask me to say anything else." Silence again. But this one felt heavier than before. Later that night, Lola lay on the bed, facing away from him. Not sleeping. Just quiet. Jason sat on the couch this time. Phone in his hand. Screen on. Then off. Then on again. He opened his contacts, scrolled, stopped, scrolled again. He didn't even know why he stopped there. But he did. Mom. He stared at it. This is crazy, he whispered to himself. He almost laughed. Jason, big Jason, calling his mom because of relationship problems. But this didn't feel like something he could handle alone. He tapped the call button, then immediately ended it. Guy, what are you doing? He muttered. He stood up, walked to the window, came back, sat down again, picked up the phone, called. This time he didn't cut it. Jason, his mother's voice came through, slightly surprised. It's late. Yeah, sorry, Mom. You okay? He paused. That question alone almost made him hang up. But he didn't. I need help. That got her attention immediately. With what? Jason scratched his head, trying to even form the words. I don't understand women. There was a small silence. Then his mother laughed softly. Welcome to life. Jason didn't laugh. I'm serious. I know, she said, her voice softer now. Talk to me. He walked slowly around the room as he spoke. It's Lola, she's upset about my work. Music videos, the way they are. And I get it. I think I get it, but I don't know what to do about it. His mother didn't interrupt. She let him talk. I can't just stop doing what I do. But I also don't want to hurt her. And everything I say just sounds wrong. He stopped walking. I don't even know how to explain it properly. There was a pause on the line. Then his mother spoke. Do you love her? Jason didn't hesitate. Yes. Then listen to her. I do listen. No, she said gently. You hear her. That's different. Jason frowned slightly. I don't understand. She's not just complaining, Jason. She's telling you how something makes her feel. He leaned against the wall. But what am I supposed to do with that feeling? You respect it. I do. You adjust, she added. Jason went quiet. That's where you're struggling, isn't it? He didn't answer. Because she was right. I can't just change everything, he said finally. I didn't say everything, she replied. But something has to change. Jason closed his eyes. Marriage is not just love, my son. It's learning. Every day. He swallowed. I don't want to mess this up. Then don't treat it like your career. He frowned again. What does that mean? In your career, you think about the audience, the numbers, the impact, the performance. She paused. In your marriage, think about the person that stayed with him. Deep, quiet, heavy. After the call ended, Jason stood there for a while, thinking, not about the video, not about the label, but about Lola. He turned and looked at her on the bed, still facing away, still quiet. He walked over slowly and sat on the edge of the bed. Lola! She didn't turn, but she was listening. I don't know how to do this perfectly, he said. I'm not even going to try. Her shoulders moved slightly. But I don't want to keep hurting you over things I can control. That made her turn a little, just enough to look at him. What does that mean? She asked softly. Jason exhaled. I don't have all the answers yet. He met her eyes. But I'm going to figure it out. Lola searched his face. Not for the perfect words, just for honesty. And for once it was there. No performance. No defense. Just confusion and effort. She turned fully now, facing him. Okay, she said quietly. Not agreement. Not forgiveness. Just openness. And right now, that was enough. The next morning didn't feel like a fresh start. It felt like something was waiting. Jason woke up before Lola. He didn't even know why. He just opened his eyes and his mind was already running. The room was quiet. Too quiet. He turned his head slightly. Lola was still asleep. Her face was soft again. Peaceful. Like nothing had happened. But Jason knew better. Things don't just disappear overnight. They sit. They wait. He got up carefully, so he wouldn't wake her. Walked to the window. Same city. Same noise outside. But inside him something was shifting. His mom's voice from last night stayed in his head. In your marriage, think about the person. He exhaled slowly. Then he picked up his phone. Opened the Flex video again. He didn't even watch the full thing this time. Just skipped through it. Scene after scene. Same energy. Same closeness. Same thing that made Lola go quiet. Jason locked the phone. Yeah, this can't work, he said under his breath. Then something else hit him. Not just the video. The whole album. Move and groove. Every track. Same vibe, same direction, same image, same world. He sat down slowly. Wait! He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. If I release this... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. He already knew what it would bring. More videos. More shoots. More moments like that. More nights like yesterday. More distance. He shook his head. No. The word came out quietly, but it felt heavy. Real. He stood up immediately, picked up his phone, opened his manager's contact, paused, then called. Jason! His manager's voice came through, still sleepy. It's early. I know, Jason said. We need to talk. That alone changed the tone. What's going on? Jason didn't ease into it. I'm not releasing Move and Groove. Silence. Real silence. Not network silence. Shock. What? His manager said finally. I'm canceling the album. There was a sharp breath on the other end. Jason, stop playing. I'm not playing. Now the tone changed. Okay, what's going on? Is this about the video? We can edit. It's not just the video. Then what is it? Jason ran his hand through his hair. It's everything. Everything, his manager repeated. Yes. The direction. The content. The whole thing. There was frustration now. Jason, we spent months on this. Money, promotion, features. I know. Then what are you saying right now? Jason took a breath. I'm saying I'm not putting it out. Another silence. Then, this is because of Lola, isn't it? Jason didn't answer immediately. That was enough of an answer. His manager sighed. Jason, listen to me carefully. Jason stayed quiet. You don't throw away a whole project because of emotions. Jason's jaw tightened slightly. It's not just emotions. Then what is it? Jason looked toward the bed. Lola was still there. Still sleeping. Still unaware of this conversation. It's my life, he said quietly. By afternoon, they were all in the same room. Manager, Paul, 2 other people from the label. Nobody was smiling. Jason sat at the table, calm but not relaxed. His manager leaned forward. Let's talk properly. Jason nodded. Paul spoke next. Bro, this album is solid. You know that. We worked on it together. I know. So what's the issue? Jason didn't rush his answer. It doesn't feel right anymore. Paul frowned. Because of the visuals? Because of what comes with it? His manager jumped in. Jason, every album comes with something. You can't suddenly act like this is new. Jason looked at him. I'm not acting. Then what are you doing? His manager asked. Jason paused, then said it clearly. I'm choosing differently. That didn't sit well. With all due respect, the manager said, trying to stay calm, this could affect your career. Jason nodded. I know. Your fans are expecting this sound. This energy. I know. You're trending right now. Flex is everywhere. I know. Then why are you doing this? Jason leaned back slightly. Because for the first time, he had an answer that wasn't about charts. Because I don't want to go home and feel like I'm hurting my wife. The room went quiet. Paul looked at him differently now. Not confused. Just thinking. The manager shook his head. Jason, this is bigger than that. Jason shook his head too. No, it's not. That was it. That was the line. The meeting didn't end nicely. It didn't explode either. It just broke. Quietly. Tension in the air. People leaving one by one. Paul stayed back for a moment. He walked up to Jason. Are you sure about this? Jason nodded. Paul studied him, then sighed. Man, I hope you know what you're doing. Jason didn't respond immediately, because honestly, he didn't fully know. But he still said, me too. Paul gave a small nod and left. Later that evening, Jason sat alone in the studio. No team. No pressure. Just him. The room felt different today. Quieter. He stared at the screen in front of him. Empty project. No title. No plan. He leaned back in his chair. What am I even making now? He whispered. For the first time in a long time, he didn't have a clear direction. But strangely, that didn't scare him as much as he expected. He picked up his headphones, put them on, opened a new track, and pressed a few keys on the piano. Soft sound. Nothing like Move and Groove. Slower. Gentler. He played it again. Adjusted it. Let it breathe. Then he started humming. No words yet. Just feeling. Real feeling. Not performance. Not image. Just something. He stopped, then smiled slightly. This one she'll like this. Back at the hotel, Lola sat on the couch, scrolling absent-mindedly. Jason walked in quietly. She looked up. You're back. He nodded. Yeah. She studied his face. Something was different. What happened today? She asked. Jason walked over slowly and sat beside her. I canceled the album. She blinked. You what? I'm not releasing Move and Groove. She stared at him, completely confused. Jason, why? He looked at her. Simple. Honest. Because of you. Her expression changed immediately. No. Yes. No, you can't do that, she said quickly. Jason frowned slightly. Why not? Because that's your work, she said. And you're my wife. That's not the same thing. It is to me. Lola shook her head. I didn't ask you to do that. I know. Then why would you? Because I saw what it was doing to you. Her voice softened. Jason, he continued, I don't want to build something outside and lose something inside. That hit her hard. She looked at him, really looked at him. You would give all that up, just like that. Jason shook his head. I'm not giving up music. Then what are you doing? He leaned back slightly. I'm starting again. She frowned. With what? He smiled faintly. I don't know yet. Then he added, but this time, I'm not making it for the world first. He looked at her. I'm making it for you. Lola's eyes softened. That wasn't what she expected. At all. You don't have to do that, she said quietly. Jason shrugged slightly. I want to. Silence. But this one felt different. Warmer. Safer. Lola leaned into him slowly, resting her head on his shoulder. Jason didn't move. Didn't speak. Just let her stay there. For a moment, everything felt okay. Later that night, Jason sat again with his laptop. Headphones on. Working. Building something new from nothing. No title. No pressure. Just intention. He typed a name for the project. Then deleted it. Too early, he muttered. He leaned back, closed his eyes, then whispered softly, This one has to be right. Not for charts. Not for numbers. Not for the world. But for something that finally felt real. The news didn't stay quiet. It couldn't. Not with someone like Jason. At first, it was small. A post here. A tweet there. Big Jason cancels album. Then it changed. Big Jason cancels entire project because of his pregnant wife. Then it grew bigger. Career suicide. Love over legacy. Big mistake. Jason saw it. He didn't even have to search. It was everywhere. Comments. Videos. People talking like they knew his life. Bro fell off. He's choosing a woman over his career. Who cancels a whole album at his level? Some people defended him. Respect him. Family first. That's a real man. But the noise was still loud. Louder than he expected. One afternoon, Jason sat on the couch scrolling through it all. Not reacting. Just reading. Lola walked in slowly from the bedroom. Her steps were careful now. Her belly a little bigger. Not too big yet, but enough to see. Enough to remind him every time he looked at her that life was changing. She held her lower back slightly as she walked. Jason noticed immediately. He dropped his phone. Come here, he said softly. She smiled a little and walked over slowly. He shifted and made space for her. She sat down beside him with a small exhale. Tired? He asked. A little. He placed her legs gently across his lap, then started massaging them slowly. He didn't rush it. Didn't talk much, just his hands moving carefully. Lola leaned back, closing her eyes. That feels good, she whispered. Jason smiled slightly. I'm learning. She opened one eye. You better. They both smiled. Small moment. Simple. Real. His phone buzzed again on the couch. Lola glanced at it, then looked at him. You've been on your phone a lot today. Jason didn't hide it. Yeah, it's everywhere. She knew what he meant. The news. The talk. The pressure. She was quiet for a second. Then, you regret it? Jason didn't even pause. No. She studied his face. You're sure? He nodded. Yeah. She looked down at her hands. But people are saying, I know what people are saying. His voice was calm. Not defensive. Just steady. She looked at him again. And it doesn't get to you? Jason paused this time. Just a little. It does. Honest. But not enough to change my mind. Lola didn't speak again. She just leaned her head back, letting that sink in. The months passed slowly, but also fast. Jason didn't travel much anymore. Most days he stayed home, or they went out together. Hospital visits, checkups, waiting rooms, white walls, soft voices, doctors explaining things. Jason always sat close, listening carefully, asking questions, even the small ones. Is she okay? Is the baby okay? He didn't joke about it, didn't act like it was nothing. This mattered to him, deeply. One evening, they came back from the hospital. Lola looked more tired than usual. Jason helped her sit down. Lie down, he said. I'm okay. Still. She didn't argue. She lay down slowly. Jason adjusted the pillow behind her, then sat beside her. You're doing a lot, he said quietly. She smiled faintly. So are you. He shook his head. It's not the same. She looked at him. It is in a different way. Jason didn't respond. He just reached for her hand and held it. That night, after she slept, Jason went to the studio room. It was quieter now. Not like before. No pressure. No team running in and out. Just him and a few people he trusted. Paul was there sometimes. Some producers joining remotely. But it felt different. More personal. Less noise. He sat in front of the mic, headphones on, eyes closed. Then he started singing. Soft at first. Almost like he was talking. I didn't know love could feel like this. He stopped. Listened back. Shook his head. Too forced. He deleted it. Tried again. Every day. I see you change. Pause. And I fall again. He stayed quiet after that. Something about that line felt real. He didn't touch it. Didn't overthink it. Just let it stay. That song became Falling. Not loud. Not flashy. Just honest. About how he looked at her now. How every day felt new. How love didn't stay the same. It grew. Quietly. Without asking. Another night, he sat again. This time a different feeling. Stronger. Protective. He wasn't just thinking about Lola. He was thinking about both of them. Her and the baby. Something inside him had changed. He could feel it. He leaned into the mic, voice deeper now. You don't have to fight alone. Pause. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. He swallowed slightly, then continued. That song became Fortress. Not just love, protection, promise. Something solid. Something that doesn't move. Paul listened to both tracks one evening. He didn't speak immediately. Just sat there. Then nodded slowly. These are different, he said. Jason leaned back in his chair. Yeah. Paul looked at him. This is you. Not the artist. Not the brand. Just him. Jason didn't smile. But something in his chest felt lighter. Back at home, Lola sat by the mirror one night. Her hand resting on her stomach. Looking at herself. Quiet. Jason walked in slowly. He stopped when he saw her like that. Just watching. She didn't notice him at first. Then she looked up. Their eyes met through the mirror. You've been staring, she said softly. Jason smiled a little. Yeah. He walked closer and stood behind her. His hands rested gently on her shoulders. Then slowly, one hand moved down and rested on her stomach. He didn't say anything. Just stayed there, feeling it. Lola placed her hand over his. Everything is changing, she whispered. Jason nodded. I know. She looked at him through the mirror. Are you scared? He thought about it, then nodded again. Yeah. She smiled slightly. Me too. They both stayed quiet, just standing there, holding something they couldn't fully explain. Outside, the world was still talking, still judging, still choosing sides. But inside that small space, none of that mattered. Jason wasn't thinking about charts, or comments, or headlines. He was thinking about her, about the baby, about the songs he was making late at night. Songs that didn't need to impress anyone, just needed to be true. Later that night, Jason lay beside Lola. She was already asleep. He turned slightly toward her, his hand resting gently on her stomach again. He whispered quietly, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Pause. But I'm here. No cameras. No audience. No noise. Just him. Trying. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The weeks didn't feel normal anymore. Everything slowed down. Not outside. Outside, life was still fast. But inside the house, things were different. Quieter. Careful. Focused on one thing. Lola. Her stomach was bigger now. You couldn't miss it. Even the way she walked had changed. Slow steps. Sometimes she stopped halfway just to breathe. Jason didn't leave her much. Most days, he stayed home. If he had to step out, it was quick. His phone was always close. Always charged. Always ready. Because anything could happen now. His mother came 2 weeks before the due date. The house felt different the moment she arrived. Warmer. Full. Like someone older had come to hold everything together. She hugged Lola first. Long and gentle. My daughter, she said softly. Lola smiled. I'm okay, Mum. Jason stood there watching them. Quiet. His mother turned to him. You come here. She pulled him into a hug too. You're about to become a father, she whispered. Jason didn't say anything. But something in him shifted again. Still didn't feel real. Not yet. The days became routine. Morning. Food. Rest. Short walks. Doctor calls. Jason helped with everything. Even the small things. Helping her sit. Helping her stand. Massaging her back when she couldn't sleep. Sometimes she would wake up at night, uncomfortable. Jason would sit up with her. Half asleep. Still there. Sorry, she would whisper. For what? For stressing you. Jason would shake his head. You're not stressing me. And he meant it. Even when he was tired. Even when he didn't fully understand what she was feeling. He stayed. One night, Lola held his hand tighter than usual. Jason. He looked at her immediately. What is it? I think it's time. His heart dropped. Time. She nodded slowly. He stood up so fast he almost knocked the chair beside him. Okay, wait. He looked around like he forgot where he was. His mother walked in quickly. What's happening? It's time, Lola said again, breathing a little heavier now. His mother moved calmly. Jason, get the bag. Jason froze for a second. What bag? The hospital bag, she said. Oh, yeah. He rushed to get it. Came back. Then stood there again. What else? His mother looked at him. Relax. Just stay with her. Relax. That word didn't make sense to him right now. The ride to the hospital felt too long. Jason sat beside Lola in the back, holding her hand tight. She squeezed back every time a wave of pain came. He could see it on her face. He didn't like it. Not one bit. You're okay, he kept saying. Even when he wasn't sure himself. His mother sat in front. Calm. Guiding the driver. Everything felt like a blur. At the hospital, everything moved fast. Nurses. Doctors. Questions. Instructions. They took Lola in. Jason tried to follow. Sir, wait outside. That stopped him. Wait. No, I'm her husband. I understand, but please wait. The door closed. Just like that. Jason stood there. Still. Silent. His hands empty now. Time didn't move normally anymore. Minutes felt like hours. Jason paced up and down. Sat down. Stood up again. Ran his hands over his face. His mother sat quietly watching him. You need to sit, she said. I'm fine. You're not. He didn't argue. He sat down. Then stood up again 2 seconds later. I can't sit. She almost smiled. You were not like this when you were performing in front of thousands. Jason shook his head. This is different. Very different. Then they heard it. A sound. Soft at first. Then louder. A baby crying. Jason froze. Everything inside him stopped. He looked at his mother. She was already smiling. That's your child. Jason didn't move immediately. Like his body needed a second to understand. Then the door opened. A nurse stepped out. Congratulations. Jason walked forward slowly. Is she okay? Yes. And the baby? She's fine too. She. Jason blinked. She. The nurse smiled. A baby girl. Something hit him deep. He didn't even know what it was. But it was strong. Real. Can I see them? He asked quietly. Come. The room was calm. Soft light. Lola lay on the bed, tired but smiling. And in her arms, a small baby. Wrapped. Quiet now. Jason stopped walking. He just stood there looking. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Lola looked up at him. You're just going to stand there? Her voice was soft. Tired. But happy. Jason walked closer slowly, like he was afraid of doing something wrong. He looked down at the baby. So small. So calm. This is... He couldn't finish the sentence. Lola smiled. Our daughter. Jason swallowed. His chest felt tight, but not in a bad way. He reached out slowly. Can I? Lola nodded. He carried the baby carefully, like she could break. His hands were steady, but his heart wasn't. He looked at her face. Tiny. Perfect. Real. She's ours, he whispered. Lola laughed softly. Yes, Jason. She's ours. He shook his head slowly, almost in disbelief. Then he smiled. A real smile. Not the one people saw on stage. Not the one for cameras. This one was different. Pure. I'm a father, he said quietly. Lola watched him. You are. Jason looked at the baby again. Then back at Lola. Thank you. Lola's eyes softened. For what? For this. He didn't need to explain more. She understood. His mother walked in quietly. She saw them and just stood there for a moment, watching. Jason turned slightly. Mom! She smiled. Let me see my granddaughter. Jason handed the baby carefully. His mother carried her like she had done this before. Because she had. She's beautiful, she said softly. Jason sat beside Lola now. Close. Very close. He didn't want space anymore. Not today. Not now. Outside, the world was still moving. Still talking. Still posting. Still judging. But inside that room, none of that existed. Not the music. Not the career. Not the noise. Just 3 people. Now 4. A small family. Later, when everything became quiet again, Jason sat there holding his daughter, Lola resting beside him. He looked down at the baby, then whispered softly, I don't know how to do this yet. Pause. But I'm not going anywhere. He meant it, more than anything he had ever said before. Because now it wasn't just about love anymore. It was about responsibility, about staying, about building something real. And for the first time in his life, Jason wasn't thinking about the next song or the next move. He was thinking about this moment and how he never wanted to lose it. If this story moved you, drop a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Every single comment means the world. And for more stories like this, hit subscribe and stay with us.